God, grant me the serenity to accept the stupidity I cannot change, the courage to fight the malice I find, and the wisdom to know the difference. Welcome to The Big Puzzle. In this podcast, we explore the subtle connections between science, religion, politics, economics, and history. One piece at a time, we unveil the big picture of this shared experience that we call life. I just taught you Hanlon's prayer, and I need that. I need that serenity, I need that courage, and I need that wisdom to talk about the topic today. So I was watching an interesting video put together by the channel Economics Explained about the pension systems around the world and the problems that we're facing, which are very bad and getting worse very fast. So they discuss some stuff, but I don't think that they understood where the real problem is, because some of the solutions or the things that they present as positive, they're really not that positive. So let me explain. What do we mean by pension system, right? So to illustrate what a pension system is, we can talk about a small primitive village. So let's say that in that village we have 50 young people, and they get together and say, hey, you know, our parents, our grandparents, they did a lot for us. We want them to, you know, now in their old age, we want them to not having to go and work and you know, suffer all the things. So if we pull our resources together, we can help them. We can help them have a retirement, right? So if they have, let's say, 5 elders, each of them have, you know, you have a ratio of 10 young people for each elder. So when they go hunting or when they build some pottery or whatever they do, they just take, you know, 1 out of 10. With the other 9, they you know, sustain themselves and their children, their offspring, the new generation. But they can also help the elders to have a more comfortable life, because you know they lost their strength, they lost their sight, their hearing, you know, normal aging stuff. So it's a good thing. It's really a good thing, and the elders, you know, look forward for that when they don't need to, you know, to work every day and struggle, because it becomes harder and harder the older you get. Believe me. So everything works fine. It's a good situation for everybody. But let's say there's a war, and these 50 young people go to war, and it's so bad that only 1 returns. So now you have 1 young person, and you have 5 elders expecting to be maintained by this young person. Obviously, he can't, right? There's no way he can provide for his own needs, for his family, and also for 5 elders. It becomes unsustainable. So now let's think about modern society. So modern society institutionalize this idea of retirement and of pension. So there's certain people in society, mostly because of age, but could be also because of you know, illness or sickness or any other conditions that they cannot provide for themselves. So society as a whole decide, yeah, we should take care of those people. That's a sign of civilization. I mean, if even primitive villages would take care of the elder, of the weak, well, how much more we should as modern societies. So yeah, we institutionalize that. We usually it's one of the responsibilities of the government to decide, okay, how much we can help, you know, people in need. Some of them might be temporary, some of them will be permanent. But you know, it's a good thing. And also, the government has a responsibility to decide who needs help and how much help and what is the best way to help. As we might see, or you already figured out, that is part of the problem, that governments are not doing things properly. But the problem is that we are facing a new war, right? It's not like the old wars where the young people went to fight other young people and they would kill each other. This is just denying the existence of the new generation from the start. We can think about the destruction of the family. So family becomes a outdated word. It's kind of with bad connotation, and well, it has to do with socialism and all of that. And we already talk, and we can talk about that a lot. But the truth is that family is not as important as it was maybe 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Not only that, or as part of that, is the vilifying of motherhood. So I grew up in a family with a stay-at-home mother, and if she's watching, hi mom. And I can tell you, it's probably one of the biggest blessings that I had in my life. To have my mom taking care of me and my 4 siblings. It's something that nothing could replace. And if you had that experience, you would agree. If you didn't have that experience, you can still believe that that's the best that you can do. And I understand there are situations that it doesn't make that possible. But I'm not talking about those exceptions. I'm talking about an institutionalization of misogyny. And when I say misogyny, I mean that we men convince women that what we do as men is more important than what they can do and they can only do. And that is bring life and nurture their families. And well, as we can see, we're facing the consequences. We convince all women that, you know, that their career was more important than their families. And careers, what is a career? It's becoming, you know, middle management in a cubicle. Is that better than being a mom that children worship? And you can say, yeah, well, you can be both. Yeah, sort of. But let's not get there. What I'm saying is, as a society, we decided that being a mother, especially a stay-at-home mother, is a bad thing. And it has bad connotation. And to make things even worse, we can talk about abortion. Let's not even bring children to this world. Let's just kill them and destroy them. And, well, that's where we are today. We are losing that war. Hopefully, we will be able to reverse it, but there's no strong indicators that is happening anytime soon. But you might say, like I think that Elon Musk said, you know I don't respect Elon Musk very much, but he said, well, you know, it's the pension system, it's a Ponzi scheme. I think he's the one who said it. I don't know if he wasn't. Sorry, Elon. And that's not understanding what a Ponzi scheme is. You could define it as a Ponzi scheme because it's a pyramid. Yeah, the base is, you know, maintaining the tip of the pyramid. But what is the difference between this and a Ponzi scheme? Well, the Ponzi scheme saturates very fast, so there's a very little people and a lot of people being, you know, a little number of people getting rich and a lot of people getting poorer and poorer. Why this is not a Ponzi scheme in that sense is because it's self-sustainable. People at the tip, they leave the pyramid. they die, and they're replaced by the people who, you know, were at the bottom. So it is self-sustainable. I like to call family the most rewarding Ponzi scheme. Once you have, well, maybe with your children you don't see that much. When we start getting grandchildren, you definitely will understand what I'm saying. It's the most delightful Ponzi scheme that you can get involved in. And I really hope I live long enough to enjoy the base of my own pyramid. But, you know, going back to the video, they were talking about, well, we have this problem that now we don't have enough young people to maintain the aging population. To make things worse, through technology and new discoveries, we are becoming older and older, but we haven't moved the retirement age. So the people who are, have to be maintained has a lower base, way lower base, and the ones at the top are more and more. They live longer. They don't leave the pyramid as fast as they did in the past. So that makes it unsustainable. And they discuss, well, what are the things that could be done? And they talk about three things. The first one is raise the retirement age, right? And if you raise the retirement age, well, you reduce the size of the tip of the pyramid. So now you have a bigger base. But what is the problem? Nobody wants to move that. They mentioned what happened in France, that they just tried to move it a couple of years up. And, well, France is France. So revolution and burning stuff. And, yeah, they had to step down from that proposal. The other option is, well, let's burden more the base of the pyramid. So that means increased collections, increased taxes. And yeah, that's not popular as well. Nobody wins elections by promising to raise taxes. So that is kind of the part of the problem, that nobody is willing to do what it has to be done. And I'm talking both the politicians and the people who vote. So that is a problem. And the third option is to, well, cut benefits. So give less to the people at the tip of the pyramid. The problem again is that some of those people are really borderline. So they don't get enough to basically survive, to get even food. So you really cannot cut that much. That's a very bad problem, and it's getting worse and worse. Why it's getting worse? Because, like I say, nobody's willing to really tackle it. Societies in general, they don't have the maturity to say, yep, we should do these three things. We're living above our means. We are healthier at older ages. We should keep working. It's not a right, and well, accept that. If we decide not to have children, or have less children, or even kill our children in the womb, well, then we can't reap the benefits of having a young population. So that kicking the can down the road is really making things worse. And I will explain a little why. Then they mention some things that kind of I was part of. They mention, one attempt was to remove the government from the system. So instead of having taxes, is to privatize the system, so you would be contributing yourself to your own retirement funds. And they started in Chile, and I was living in Argentina, and they did this privatization, and I was part of that. And they forced you to choose one of the companies. There were very few, 4 or 5, so it was basically an oligopoly, and you couldn't change from one to the other. So it was not really good. Obviously, it was probably better than when the government ran it. But yeah, what happened in Argentina is that, these companies were given a number of, or let's say a grace period in which they would just collect money from the people, and they didn't have to pay anybody. And I don't know if they had 10, 15 years. Interestingly enough, those companies would invest your funds in different portfolios, and they always lost money. So their only job was to get free money from people and invest it, and they lost money. Obviously, the system collapsed, and they started making it public again, right? Making the government again, which was a failure. But at least was an attempt to solve the problem. Solving the problem in the sense that making you have ownership or accountability for your own retirement, not relying on the government. So some other problems related to this is the different strategies that different countries or different regions have to try to use to deal with this growing, so there is shrinking population. And for instance, in Europe, in general, what they did is, they lowered the bar for immigrants. And the whole idea is, okay, we don't want to have children. We will just let people who have children in other countries to come to our countries and, pay for our retirement. Originally, many people from South America moved to Europe, and but that doesn't work, because now you inherit the burden of a lot of people. So what used to be, blooming economies, or at least healthy economies, they degrade really fast, and they expect you to go and not only work for yourself, but work to maintain this aging population. So many people went back to South America, but lately they have been replaced by people from Africa or Pakistan or Afghanistan, or even Syria. So people that come from real poor countries without any skills or any significant way to contribute to the society or to maintain that economy, and they become an extra burden instead of being part of the solution. But if that would be the case, or the only problem, you can say, okay, it didn't work. But they're also bringing their culture. They're not integrating, they're not adopting the European or the Western culture. They're just replacing it with some, I would say, bad ideas. So they are struggling, and this is an ongoing problem. So no solutions in sight. Then you have Japan. Japan has always been very adverse to immigration. So they just decide to die, right? People, I think that the average age is over 50 now. And they have enough funds saved, and we will revisit that, to live for some time. And then it's anybody's guess what is going to happen. But Japan is slowly dying and accepting that fate. They are not willing to open to immigration, to make the choice or the mistake that Europe is doing. In the United States, that is happening more and more, which is worrisome. Some of the replacement comes from immigration, mostly from Mexico, Central and South America, which are not that different culturally, so the clash is not there, but there's still, as you probably know, some problems. So then they talk in this video, and I also watch a couple of documentaries about that, about Norway as an example of what you do. Norway is quite interesting in the sense that they are very homogeneous, and they have a culture of community because of their geography. So these little towns in the fjords, they all survive together or die together. So that makes them very collaborative as a culture, as a society. And also the population is not that big, it's very homogeneous. And I talk about that 1 year ago in one of my videos about normality and things like that. But they struck gold. Not really gold, oil. And suddenly they started to have a lot of money. The people, through the government, and in this case, like I was saying, the people is really close to the government, or the government is really close to the needs of the people, just because of how the society developed. They decided to create a fund. So they're saving money for every citizen in Norway. And they don't touch that money. So I can't remember what the name of that is, but I think that for every citizen, they already have about $200,000 saved for them in that fund. And so eventually they will get that money. So they're saving for their future. I don't know how they handle immigration. So if I emigrate to Norway, would they just add me to the list? I will immediately have my $200,000 share, or how does that work, right? I'm guessing that they have a very closed immigration system, so not anybody can become a Norway citizen and become part of that. But I really don't know. But that is put as an example of, and some people say, well, that's socialism. It's really not. It's really not. It's just a cultural thing where, they have this communal sense because of the way they were created. United States, for instance, that would never work because it's too big, it's too diverse, it's too open, and it's too messy by design, and that's what make it successful. It's just very boiling society. So, but well, again, that's usually put as an example. Now, even if we all do what Norway is doing, and we could do it, we all struck oil, and we all got enough money to retire at once, why wouldn't it work? And this is the part where I don't know if we are facing stupidity or malice, right? Again, Hanlon's razor say, well, try stupidity first. So let's try that. Let's think that we're stupid. If there's an experience in this life that we all share, is the economy. We all participate in the economy 24/7. When you go to work, when you go and buy something, when you save, when you invest, you're always part of an economy. There are in different parts of the world, you have different type of economy, but we should understand just based on our daily experience. But apparently we don't. I've heard so many people saying things that show that they have no idea what economy is, how money works, and so I don't know. And this channel is all about putting together pieces of the big puzzle, and I think that this will give us a good opportunity to put together some of these pieces. So far I've already mentioned a couple of pieces of the puzzle. But to explain what the real problem is, let's talk about, recently I talked about concentration, right? When I was talking about black holes and monopolies and things like that. I also talk about unintended consequences or second order effects. I talk about recently about exponential growth or sigmoidal growth and things like that. I also talk about game theory and the idea of equilibrium and the different types of equilibrium that we have, equilibria that we have. I also talk about attractors and repulsors. So let's grab all these pieces together and apply to this problem. To illustrate this, some time ago, I think it was in LinkedIn that I made a comment about shrinking populations and how the only solution is to start having more children now. And well, I pointed out, I with my wife, we had 4 children. So we paid our share, and they were not cheap. Am I glad to have them? Yeah, hello, children. But yeah, it was an investment. It was an expensive investment. Rewarding for sure, especially when they start giving me grandchildren. But yeah, what happened? Why would my children have to work to pay the pension of people who decided not to have children? Is it fair? And I don't think it is. But this guy was, mad at me. Well, joined the club. And he was saying, well, I did pay my taxes for 30 years, so I deserve my retirement. It has nothing to do with having children or not having children. And I say, well, I didn't say anything, to be honest. But I start thinking about that answer. What this guy is missing? First of all, is extremely selfish, but he's wrongly mistaken. And the reason why he's wrongly mistaken is because he's applying what we call the what's the name in Latin? The ceteris paribus. And ceteris paribus means all things equal. So his reasoning works if the economy behaves independent of his decision, right? If the world is the same and then he decided not to have children and he paid his taxes, now he's entitled to get his pension. What he doesn't see is that that's not a true condition. And now we are talking about game theory and what we call a Nash equilibrium. So basically, he is taking the approach or the decision that is best for him, ignoring that everybody will make the same decision and they will all be punished by that. Right? So you have 2 options: have a lot of children, have no children. If you decide that, okay, I will rely on other people having children, so I benefit more because I had the same pension and everything than everybody else, and I had to spend thousands of dollars raising children. The problem is that everybody does the same, so nobody has children. So everybody is worse. If you want to watch the video that I created about the prisoner dilemma and game theory and all those things, it's an unstable equilibrium that decays to a stable Nash equilibrium with everybody is actually worse than if everybody decided to have children, right? And not benefit from the others. The the other thing that he didn't consider is, well, this will turn into unintended consequences. What are the unintended consequences? Well, the unintended consequences is there will be less children in the world. The ceteris paribus is not true. Everybody decides not to have children, so the base reduces more and more. That's not what he intended to do, but it's a consequence. It's an unintended consequence of his decision. Now that leads to a problem of concentration, right? A concentration means that when you have more, that more is likely to become more, to grow faster than when you have less. Again, think about the black holes and the example of the two atoms together versus a single atom, right? And that idea. What is the concentration in this case? Well, the concentration is that you have more burden on less and less people, right? So they start getting more, and when they get more, then what happens is they become attractors of more burden. How is that? Because they feel that they can't afford to have children, right? So they're making the burden on themselves now bigger because of the top of the inverted pyramid, but when they go up, it will become even worse for them and for everybody else. So, and finally, what happens is an exponential growth. And in this case, it's not a growth, or it's a growth in misery, or it's an exponential decay. If you remember when we talk about the exponential growth, what happens is, well, you have what is called sometimes as the hockey stick graph. In this case, it's a hockey stick graph that goes down. So what happens is, you have a little slope that suddenly goes down really fast, and that's what produces kind of an explosion. So non-linearity is not something that you keep going down. You go down and suddenly you fall, and that is kind of when we talk about a slippery slope, it's not an even slope. It's a slope that becomes a cliff really, really fast. So that would lead to eventually a collapse, right? We're seeing that in real time in North Korea now, in South Korea, and I mentioned this when I was talking about the shrinking population, the effect on infrastructure that nobody talks about in some other piece of the puzzle. But this is not about that. In South Korea, even if they want to have children, they can't. They can't afford it, right? So that is, again, self-fulfilled prophecy, an acceleration, a concentration, an unstable equilibrium, an attractor. All these pieces of the puzzle show together to make things worse. If you still haven't understand what I'm trying to say, let's create an extreme example, right? Let's say that we all, in all the world, we agree to have a world government, right? A planetary government, and they're so great that they figured out a way to produce enough money for everybody to retire at once. So they set up this day that let's say July 14th, for whatever reason, that is the World Retirement Day. And they have these banks full of money for every single person in the world to retire, right? And the day arrives, big celebration, we all retire at once. And we all have our funds in the bank, right? To live comfortably for the rest of our lives. Awesome, right? Well, what happened the next day? Well, you go to the supermarket and there's no food. You go to the bank to get some of your money. There's no teller. There's no Uber to drive you there. There's no nothing. Nobody's working. So, what is the worth of your money? The worth of your money in those banks is zero, because money doesn't have worth. Money is a representation of the wealth of an economy. If your economy dies, your money becomes worthless. And it applies to gold, and it applies to crypto, and it applies to everything. And that is what this guy that I was talking, he doesn't understand. It doesn't matter that you put all your money in a bank for years and years and now you can retire. If you don't have an economy that makes your money in the bank worth anything, then it doesn't matter. So having children is not about just a personal fulfillment, even though it's a very important part. It has a very important significance in society, and particularly in the economy. They are the ones that will make your money worth anything. If you haven't contributed with children, you're making your money and my money and everybody's money useless, worthless. And that is what we have ahead of us. So I will probably have 10 people watching this video. I don't care. I want to invite you, if you watch this video, if you reach this point, spread the message. Have children yourself if you can. Contribute to our future and their future. Restart this marvelous Ponzi scheme. You will benefit from that in many, many ways, with many, many unintended good consequences, but you will also prevent us all to just fall into chaos. That's where we're heading. Vote for the guy who said that we have to raise taxes. Vote for the guy who said that we cannot maintain the retirement age. Vote for the guy who tells you we're living above our means. We need to do something. Most likely will be a libertarian. But vote for them. Vote for whoever tells you the hard truth. And hopefully we will age together and have fun. So, okay, that will be it for this one. I hope what I said makes sense. I would love to have some discussion with you guys. I don't see many comments except probably from my family, or more particularly from my daughter. So please comment, even if you disagree. Maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong in this one. I would love to, you prove me wrong. But yeah, you need to do it. So that will be, again, it for this one, and see you in the next one. Bye.